it was only specially for those people. So here, Ali Radiyallahu Anhu got the exemption that he can enter the masjid even in the status of being impure. And his door of the home was opening into the masjid. And as I said, now only two doors were opening inside the masjid. One was Ali Radiyallahu Anhu, and second was Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And here, I would like to remind ourselves one more thing. How the salah used to start during the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I don't want to go into the details of that. But since we talked about this subject, it's a good opportunity at least to know some of these things also. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as we all know, he used to perform the sunnah at his home. And he encouraged us also to do the same thing. After doing the sunnah at home, most of the times Bilal Radiyallahu Anhu used to go and tell Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, now the people are here and people have arrived and they're ready for the salah. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would come out of his home. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's house was on the left side of the Qibla. And the door of his home used to open inside the masjid, left side of the Qibla. So he would open the door. Sahaba Ridwanullahi Alayhim Ajma'een, as they would see Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they would start getting up, and Bilal Radiyallahu Anhu would start calling the Iqamah. By the time Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gets onto his musalla, which is a distance, many of us might have seen that place in Medina Munawwara, Riyadul Jannah, a place that's called Riyadul Jannah, which means the land of the Jannah, the garden of the Jannah. And then Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's qabr, his grave. His home was where his grave is now. And nowadays, they have barriers over there. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's house was not even up to that point. It was even before that. Part of the masjid that was at that time part of the masjid now is part of that area that they have covered, so that people won't get up to the grave of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. As we know, his house was very small. So small that when he would perform salah during the night time, he would be doing salat al-tahajjud, Aisha Radiyallahu Anha would not have a place to sleep. She used to sleep and had no choice but to spread her legs in front of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. His salah was so long that she would sleep and she won't even know that her legs are spread before him. And while she's sleeping, the legs are spread before Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When he's ready to go to sajda, he would just squeeze her feet. She will wake up and right away pull her feet away, and then he will go to sajda. The hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, all the authentic books of hadith. She says he used to touch my feet, and then I would pull my feet away, then only he will get the place to perform the sajda. Subhanallah. This is the house of the greatest person that ever came to this universe. The dearest person to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the leader of all the human beings, including Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam, on the Day of Judgment. And the one who says about himself, Ana Sayyidu Wuldi Adam wa la fakhr. I'm not arrogant, but I'm saying that I'm the leader of all the human beings. This was his home. I don't want to go too far from the subject, but will be a good reminder for ourselves. that when many times when we see some people getting a lot of wealth, we might feel, and even those people sometimes get the feeling, that these people are having it because they are dearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the other people are not having it, they must be doing something wrong. And the day we don't make enough wealth, or the time that we go through some hardships, we feel that I must have done something wrong because of which I'm not making enough now. This is never a sign of the pleasure of Allah or displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Has nothing to do with that. If the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was dependent on giving the person wealth, and that was a sign, having a lot of wealth was a sign of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would have been the wealthiest person in the world. But we all know that that wasn't the case. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Kahf, وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الرَّجُلَيْنِ جَعَلْنَا لِأَحَدِهِمَا جَنَّتَيْنِ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا. He said there were two friends. This is in Surah Kahf. Two friends. One of them had two beautiful gardens. Jannatain. He had two gardens like Jannah. Beautiful gardens. And the garden was full of grapes. And he did not have to build his own fence because حَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ. Palm trees were surrounding the both gardens. They were like a fence all around the gardens. وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا. And in the middle of these gardens, he had a lot of growth, which means vegetables, fruits, everything that he needed in the middle part of the garden. كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهَرًا. Both the gardens were giving a lot of fruit. And we never did anything wrong to that person. He was always getting the full fruit of everything that he had over there. And in addition to this, وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهَرًا. We also gave him fountains in the middle of the garden, so he won't have to worry about getting the water for the garden. For watering the garden, we gave him two fountains in each garden. وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ. One of these days, it was the time for him to go and get the fruit. As he sees all of this outcome of the garden, فَقَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ. He was talking to his friend now. This person himself is not a believer and his friend is a believer. The non-Muslim has two beautiful gardens and the Muslim is very poor person. Doesn't have gardens, doesn't have no wealth, very poor person, just makes his living. فَقَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُ. He said to his friend, his Muslim friend, while he was talking to him, أَنَا أَكْثَرَ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَأَعَزُّ نَفَرًا. I have more wealth than you, and I have more family members than you, which means Allah is blessing me with children, with wealth, and He's not giving you none of these things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. He gets into his garden, he's doing wrong to himself by thinking that this is what I deserve. His friend told him that everything might get destroyed. You know, if Allah, the one who gave you all of this, He can take it away from you. He said, مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا. I don't think this will ever destroy. I have all the means of taking care of it. No one can get into it. I have beautiful fencing. I have water in it. I have people working for me. مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا. This will never be destroyed. Nothing can happen to this. وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاعَةَ قَائِمَةً. I'll just keep on working for my garden. I don't care about the day of judgment. I don't even think I will see the day of judgment.